Hi, welcome to my brand new series, How to Crochet a Sweater, where I will be showing you workups and ways you can crochet your very own sweater. First things first, if you do not know me, my name is Michelle Ferguson. I am the crochet pattern designer of Two Brothers Blankets. You can find me at twobrothersblankets.com and on Facebook and Instagram at Two Brothers Blankets. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and hit the thumbs up if you like what you see. If you'd like to be notified every time I upload a brand new video, please click the bell at the top of your screen. All right, our very first crochet sweater workup style is going to be how to crochet a sweater by sewing together two rectangular panels. I'm going to be demonstrating how to construct my camellia sweater. This is a high-low, slightly oversized sweater with a beautiful trim on the sleeves and a cowl neckline at the top. This is not going to be a full pattern tutorial. I am just going to show you how to construct it by sewing the panels together and adding the sleeves and the neckline. You can purchase the full pattern on Ravelry and Etsy, and I will link to both of those in the description below. For the camellia sweater, you will need a DK number 3 weight yarn. I am using Paintbox Simply DK for my sample for the demonstration. You'll also need a H 5mm crochet hook or the hook size you need to obtain gauge. All right, let's get right into the tutorial now. Okay, so to start off, I have already crocheted my panels. I've got two panels, one's longer than the other because it is a high-low sweater. I've got some stitch markers, my yarn needle, some scissors, measuring tape, and my yarn. To start, we are going to, we have our two panels. I've laid one on top of the other. For this one, a right and wrong side is not particularly a big deal. So just figure out which side you want to be your right side, or if your pattern says to face the right side, you want your insides to face each other. So see, mine doesn't have the ends weaved in on this side, and so this is my wrong side for both of these. They're facing each other, so the right side is facing outward on both sides. Lay them on top of each other. So for this pattern, set them up evenly so that they're really close together, just laid directly on top of each other. And then for this pattern, it starts at the shoulders. So we are going to measure out what we want, and it says to leave a 10 to 12 inch opening for the holes. And my measuring tape is falling apart. Okay, so we have 23 inches. I'm going to mark a stitch marker at 6 inches. And then I don't have a very large head, so I'm going to give it, I'm going to do 6 inches on this side, giving me about an 11-inch opening. I have a 21-inch head, so that should do. So I've marked my stitch markers. Now I am going to sew these ends together at the top. So let me grab some yarn. I would always err on the side of more. So I'm just going to get as much as I think I'll need, snip it, hook my, or thread it through my needle. All right, so for this one, we are going to sew using the mattress stitch. So I usually take the first two and stick them together and give myself plenty of extra yarn for weaving an end. And so then I'm going to take it and I'm going to insert it into the next stitch on one side on my back side, and then into the next on my front side, and I'm getting tangled. There we go. What is that? And the other side, so you're basically like almost crisscrossing back and forth. And I'm going to sew all the way to the stitch marker. Okay, I've worked to the stitch marker. I'm going to fasten off. I will knot and weave in these ends later, but for now I'm going to leave them because I want to make sure that it fits. I'm going to try it on when I have completed these shoulders and my sewing, and just make sure my head will fit through there, which it looks like it should just fine, but always better safe than sorry, because it would stink if it didn't and I had weaved in all my ends. All right, so now I'm going to do the other side. Same thing. Start on the end. And go all the way to the stitch marker. Okay, I have sewn them both together, and you can see it's just got that opening, and this is where our cowl neckline will go. So now we need to sew up the sides of our sweater. Okay, so you can see here, this is the top here. This is actually the side of the sweater. You can see here that there is the bottom piece is longer than the top piece because it is a high-low garment. Okay, so I'm gonna take some more stitch markers. It says to sew the sides of the rectangle together, starting at about 3 inches from the bottom of the front panel, leaving approximately 8 inches for the size I'm doing, which is medium, unsewn at the top of each side for your arms to go through. So I'm going to take my measuring tape and measure at approximately 3 inches and mark a stitch marker here. And then I'm going to take it at the top and measure down to about 8 inches and mark a stitch marker there. So, oops. We are going to be sewing the panels together in between these two stitch markers. So let's do that now. We're just going to do it the exact same way. Let me grab some yarn. All right, I've got my yarn, I've got a needle, and I'm going to do it the same, except on the sides we don't have any stitches because we're just working along the edge. So leave a good amount. I'm just kind of, make sure you can see that, weaving back and forth slightly higher than my last one instead of actually working into a stitch. So you can see it's kind of just back and forth in like a zigzag type style all the way up to the next stitch marker. And when I pull that tight, it will be not barely visible. See that? Look at that nice seam. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, I have finished sewing along the side. As you can see, it is a very not very noticeable seam, just a little line down the side from here to here. And then I have my armhole right here, where the sleeve will be added to. And then this little slit at the bottom. So now I'm going to do the very same thing on the other side. I did leave these strings. I didn't knot them or weave them in or anything yet, just so that I can try on once I've sewn and see if I need to add more stitches or maybe take some out, depending on how it fits. And then I'll knot it up and get ready to do my sleeve. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so I am back and I have sewn everything up. I actually needed to sew up a little more at the neckline in the armhole than I had intended. It was just a little too big, so I sewed that up. And as you can see here, I have already added one sleeve. So I'm going to show you how to do your sleeves for a rectangular panel. So you're going to do it one of two ways. You're either going to join your yarn to the armhole and work in the round to create the sleeve, or you're going to create the sleeve in rows, fold it in half, sew it at the bottom, and then sew it to your garment. For this particular pattern, we are just joining our yarn to the armhole and working in the round. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. I've got my crochet hook and my yarn, and I've got the second armhole here. So as you can see, it's been sewn up along the sides. There's not really a stitch along here. There's just rows that you can pretty much tell where each row is. Starting here with the long chain, and then this ended with a single crochet, started, ended, started, ended. So what I'm going to do is I am going to join my yarn in this bottom corner. So this right here is where your armpit is going to be, pretty much. This is the bottom of your armhole. So that if there is a seam, it's going to be on the bottom part of the sleeve and not up the top. So that's why you always want to join your yarn down here at the armpit, no matter what kind of sweater you're doing. It just looks nicer. So I'm just going to join it here in this first row. And I'm going to work around. And so it tells me to work a set amount of stitches around. And those are in multiples of 6. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to work evenly around the armhole until I get to my number of stitches. Now, sometimes it works out great with the exact number of stitches. Sometimes it doesn't, especially when you're sewing up to a certain length. You may run into some issues depending on how far apart you put your stitches, but just work it out to where it has that number of stitches, space it out evenly. Sometimes I will, and I'll probably do that here. I'll do a decrease stitch right here so that there's not a gap in between the panels when I'm counting, just so that it looks nice and clean. So let's do that. I'm supposed to do 48. So it tells me to join, long chain, and work 1 DC, 1 SC evenly around for 48 stitches. So 1, 2, I'm just kind of doing in each row. 3. Okay, I have done my stitches. I did a double crochet, 2 together up here to keep it from gapping right there. And I also did a single crochet because I end with a single crochet, 2 together right here. There's still a little tiny bit of a gap, but I hardly think that will be noticeable. So now I'm going to be working in the round to create my sleeve, just like this one. You can see where I joined and worked in the round, and then you're going to do a decrease and then create your trim right here. So that is one of the ways you will be adding a sleeve. If you were sewing your sleeve, creating your sleeve in rows, you would work in rows and then you would sew it on here just like exactly like you did. You sewed your 2 rectangle panels together. So there will be instructions, and for patterns like that, they will tell you what to do as far as that goes. So those are the 2 ways you can add your sleeves. Now, let's talk about the neckline here. You will be doing the exact same thing it will be one of 2 ways, just like the sleeve. You'll either join your yarn and and crochet the neckline around, which is what you're going to do for this one. Or you will crochet the trim and then sew it on, just the same as the sleeves. So for this one, you're joining the yarn and crocheting, and I would join probably right here in the corner and then crochet in the round. You turn each one and you're making a longer cowl neckline for this one, but sometimes it's just a rib trim or whatever, and you'll just work around that hole right there. Again, for this there is stitches, so you would use your stitches as, where if you're working a rib trimming, you would slip stitch into 2 stitches, or you would count those stitches for your cowl neckline working in the round. So it's the same thing. You're either going to sew or join your yarn and crochet from there. And then that's all there is to it. You have yourself a sweater made from 2 rectangles. This one is, like I said, a high-low, and sorry I can't get the whole thing in the camera. It's a long tunic length sweater, just made from 2 simple rectangles sewn together. And it's a really cozy and comfy sweater that works great for fall and winter. So I hope that helped you to visualize how to crochet a sweater using 2 rectangular panels. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and check back again soon for another how to crochet a sweater video. Thanks for watching.